Hey everybody, Justin Queen here with Fish Ohio Outfitters. Today we're tying up some flies for smallmouth. We're gonna do a Craft Fur Minnow, as I first saw it done by Andreas Anderson, who is just an absolutely amazing fly tyer. I highly recommend you check him out if you haven't already. I saw it done again by fly fishing the Ozarks. Just loved the pattern, tied some for myself and started fishing them for smallmouth. Also have caught wipers on these. They were also really good to me in South Florida for peacock bass. So this is an unweighted pattern as opposed to a Craft Fur Clouser, which would have lead eyes. So currently I've got a number 2 SA 280 minnow hook by Ahrex already loaded up in the vise, ready to go. I've got pink flashy Craft Fur and yellow flashy Craft Fur that we're gonna build this thing with, and some, you guessed it, 150 denier gel spun thread. So I'm just gonna go ahead and dress the whole shank of the hook and just walk that all the way back to the bend, and then I walk it back to about where the barb comes off of the hook. We're gonna clip that off, grab our yellow fur, and the key to this that makes it work is you have to keep this thing sparse, and I do mean very sparse. So I'm gonna grab the Craft Fur all the way out on the tips, and I'm just gonna get rid of all of the material that isn't the very longest strands. So I don't know, I guess that's about 3 times the length of the shank of the hook or so, somewhat close to it. Cut that off. And that first tie-in, it is important to make sure that you don't over bulk that. So I'm gonna tie that down and then hit it with just a little bit of glue. And then I'm gonna pinch it tight. And I'm gonna paint a little bit of super glue right at the back of the Craft Fur. And all that's gonna do is build some rigidity back here at the rear of the fly and stop that Craft Fur from fouling around the bend of the hook. So there we have it. Put that in our waist, pull off another little bit of Craft Fur. This one just a little bit bulkier. Once again, hold it at the ends and get rid of as much of that underfluff as you possibly can. Except this time, we're going to tie it in reverse, and I want that material to spread all the way around the hook shank. So we're going to pull that tight, line that up, grab our butt ends, and just clip off the excess. Throw that down to the waist. And today I actually remembered to bring a push tool. Tie that back. And we're gonna go right over the top of it and tie it in bullet style. And you can see we're starting to build that taper as we move forward, and that's what this whole fly is about. So now I'm gonna walk forward to the front of the fly, and we're gonna invert our vise, and we're gonna grab some more yellow Craft Fur. This is gonna be our bulkiest tie-in. And I'm just gonna line that up there to make sure that I'm continuing the taper that I wanna build. We're gonna tie that in reverse. And I'm not gonna reef down on that just yet because I wanna make sure that I keep the yellow on the underneath side of the fly, just like so. And then we're gonna roll it over. Swap it out for my pink. And I want the top of this fly, the pink section, to be ever so slightly denser than the bottom yellow section. So a little bit more pink fur than yellow. Really taking my time to get all of that underfluff out of there. Lay that on top, and I'm just going to match it up as far as the length goes. Just like so. And then we're going to pick up our butt ends here, flip the waist out. Flip the waist out. And I'm happy with that right there. So I'm going to throw a whip finish in. And if you're not comfortable hand whip finishing and you can't, get over those sections, you can just glue your thread here and call it a day. And just cut it off after you glue it. Just give it a second to dry. And now we're going to take a break because I forgot to get eyes for the fly. And I actually need them for this fly. So 1 second, I'll be right back. And we're back. We're gonna finish this fly now. Look at that, I can see now. We're gonna take our pink craft fur, fold it back, and we're gonna take our yellow craft fur. That's a little harder because you have to split the gap of the hook. And we're just gonna pull those back. And then I'm gonna take one of my little clips here, and I'm just gonna clip it right there to keep it out of the way while I get myself set up to glue my eyes on. So we're gonna glue an eye on either side, and what I try and do is just position the eye right behind the eye of the hook, and I pinch them together, and with one hand, maybe, we're gonna get my flex hold UV resin out. And this is the hardest part of the fly. It's not a hard fly to tie at all. Go ahead and get rid of that for now. And what I want to create here is just a really nice flat head. And so I start by putting just a little bit of UV resin between those eyes. And then we hit it with our UV torch. And then we're going to flip it over and we're going to do the same thing underneath. Careful not to get it into the eye of your hook, if you can avoid it. And I know there's a little bit of UV resin kind of stuck out on one of those strands of craft fur, but that's okay. I'm going to show you why here in a minute. Because all we got to do is go in there with our scissors and just nick it off. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take like a ribbon's worth of UV and I'm going to rotate all the way around using the rotation features on my vise here. And we're just going to take the resin and we're going to push it back ever so slightly into the craft fur. And I've made a little bit of a mess of this one, but I think it's so important to remember, more often than not, most of your flies will fish. So is this perfect? No, it's not. But I know it's not perfect, and I'm not bothered by it, so. So we just get that set. And just like that, we've got a nice, clean craft fur bait fish tied up and ready to catch smallmouth or peacock bass, whatever your favorite is, depending on where you live. Those eyes are just not wanting to quite line up. That's okay. Give that a good long cure. And yeah, it's the simplest little fly. Got a little bit of a bulky head on it, enough to cut through the water. And when fish are being finicky and they're looking for a little bit smaller forage, this can be a great fly for you when the big stuff just isn't quite working out. So tie some of those up and fish them, and let us know how they do. Thanks.